Mic check, mic check. All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Three Kings Day. It's January 6th. Welcome to our first New York Freedom Fighter X Space, which we host every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, hosted by yours truly, Rosangel Perez of Cafecito Break, Cozy of Cozy's Wellness, and Mark for NY. And yeah, today is a really special day. We have a special guest who's going to be joining us. Well, he's already excuse me. He's going to be joining us today, and that's our dear friend and brother Kelly Walker. And he is from Freedom Talk. We're going to speak about his journey, his resilience. He is a true patriot, someone who really loves this country, and he's a great father and husband and someone who extends that loving grace to people that he meets. And when you meet him, you just kind of meet this gentle giant with this grace. And my sister and I have had the blessing of knowing him for a few years, and we're really excited to be hosting the space with him tonight. And with me here today, before I introduce Cozy and Mark, who is joining us right now, we also have my sister who is here sharing the line with me, Alex Perez of Cafecito Break. Alex, say hi.
Hola, 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 community. Happy 2025. I'm very happy to finally be able to join you all for this space. I just want to say that I'm grateful to be here. And I just want to thank my sister and Mark and Cozy for creating such a beautiful space where there's always such great conversation, much needed information and perspectives, and just always a feel good vibe.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of announcements. We're sharing the mic, so apologize. We have a couple of announcements that we want to get into first before we introduce our special guest and welcome to the space. So at this time, I'd like to pass it on to Cozy. And again, thank you everyone who's joining. Please take a moment to share the space. And I see on the chat, Dave, it's been a while. Welcome, Happy New Year. And also Carla and the titis are on the space together and we say hi. So happy New Year to everyone and Cozy.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a quick announcement here. This January 14th, I believe that's next Tuesday, we're going to be going back to Albany. And this is very important, and we need everybody up there. We've been through hell and back since 2019, and actually before 2019. We've been fighting these bills, and they removed our religious exemptions from children, then they removed the adults. So they kicked kids out of school, then they came for the adults, they kicked us out of work. Uh, and now they're coming for parental rights. But we've been successful since 2019 because this recipe seems to be working. We go up there early in the session and then again towards the end of the session, and we've been kicking their butts ever since then. We show up, we show our spirits, we show that we mean business, we're always respectful, but we are persistent, like the buzzing mosquito that doesn't go away. And the great news is that we keep going back and we have grown in numbers and we want to keep it that way. So, just very quickly, we have some serious disgusting bills that keep popping up. That's the adult vaccine database bill, and that must get defeated because they're going to use that to punish us in the near future, just like they punished us during COVID, and we cannot stand for that. They're going to keep putting our data in there, and they're going to prevent you from traveling. They're going to prevent you from getting an education, and they're going to prevent you from working. Okay, so we need to stop it. And the most disgusting thing that they've done, this guy Brad Hoylman, who is one of the worst politicians in probably American history, I would say in at least in New York history, he took that adult vaccine database bill and he coined it now the RFK Jr. Act, and he used RFK Jr.'s initials uh, to basically what he called it, and I have it here. It's so disgusting. It's called the. Give me 1 second. It's really unbelievable. He calls it the Registry for Keeping Justified Records Act, and it's using the acronyms of RFK Jr. as a spit in the face to RFK Jr. Uh, Very disgusting. And Brad Hoylman, we're going to defeat you again. We're going to expose you for the demon that you are. You're not going to get away with this. And the difference this year is that RFK Jr. is going to be Health and Human Services Secretary. He's going to be controlling the budget, and we're not playing games here. So I'm excited about that. And not to drag this on, but basically, there's some positive bills out there too. And before I get into the positive bills, I want to talk about another negative bill, which is the worst children's health bill ever, which would allow children to make medical decisions behind the parent's back. That is getting any drug, any medication, uh, and also any medical procedure, and there's no limit to the age. It could be a newborn to like whatever age, they don't care. These are lawless criminals and they must be exposed, they must be stopped. And we're going to stop them. We're going to keep coming up there and defeat these bills. Again, the positive ones, real quick. There's one now to restore the religious exemption. So now we're going on the offense. There's one that would require a parent to be present for any vaccine given to a child, and that would be so beneficial because that would stop all these parental right violating bills and put a stop to that. And then there's another one that would go around the vaccine immunity that they have, which would this bill would say this bill says allow vaccine injured to sue governments that mandate vaccines. And then there's a few others. I'll quickly say them. Education for All Act, which would allow doctors to write medical exemptions. How about that? As of right now in New York, doctors write medical exemptions and they get denied by freaking gym teachers, by superintendents. Okay? What do they know about medicine? What do they know about health? What do they know about vaccines? Absolutely disgusting. This would give doctors the ability to write medical exemptions again. And then last but not least, Let Us Work Act, which would rehire all New York City workers. Uh, Show up to Albany. Uh, let's defeat these demons. And that is my announcement.
Thank you. I just want to include before Mark speaks that Maha is coming to Albany, and I want to just share who the speakers are. And these are the people that are going to be joining us as we go, politic with the politicians. And so speakers include Del Bigtree, Mary Holland, Bobby Ann Cox, Trisha Lindsay, Dr. James Lyons, Weiler, Mark Gordon, Sophie Medina, Shannon Joy, Leland Lehrman, John Gilmore, Michael Caine, live music by Kevin Nathaniel and the Spirit Drummers. And for more information, visit teachersforchoice.substack.com. There are buses that will be going to Albany if you're interested in joining us, which is next Tuesday, 114. And that information is on the Substacks. Again, that Substack is teachersforchoice.substack.com. Thank you. Mark?
Hello, everyone. Happy January 6th to everyone. Happy New Year. Of course, January 6th, we got to the one of the most patriotic days in American history as we all gathered several years ago. Of course, the fake news wants to call it an insurrection and all that other stuff. I got into details and videos of what actually happened. But I'm sure you've heard that on numerous occasions. But that's on my Instagram. All my usernames are MarkFriendY. And make sure everyone, if you can, if you could repost this space so we can get some more viewers. You already know the deal with shadow banning. Every repost helps. We air every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself, Cafecito, and Cozy. We periodically have some great guests. Today we have Kelly Walker, who's been patiently waiting to speak. I'm just going to run through a few things really quick, and then I'll pass it back to Cafecito to make the introduction. But yeah, I mean, apparently a couple of inches of snow gets put on by the fake news as if it's Armageddon because things are getting canceled and Everyone's fear mongering and stocking up in stores, and then you get a few inches of snow. This is the Northeast, and the weather and the wind and the summer. It's like, oh my God, it's so hot outside. In the summer, don't go outside. It's hot. Oh my God, there's snow in the winter. Stay inside. Stock up on food. Fear mongering is nonstop with the fake news media. It's absolutely ridiculous. The event that I had today was canceled because of the snow. Now I have to stay in Jersey another day because people are afraid of a few inches of snow now in Jersey. But either way, it is a brand new year. Hope everyone enjoyed their holiday season. I definitely enjoyed watching Kamala Harris have to announce the votes today, as we also posted on our Instagram page, and announcing basically that Donald Trump won, and we have been unburdened by what has been, and there's no more cackling. We won't have to hear from her for a while. So, what better way to start the year than know that you don't have to hear the cackling for a while? So, I guess that's a good thing. But I'm gonna pass it. I know Kelly has been patiently waiting to join us on the show, and I do appreciate him joining us. And I'm gonna pass it to Cafecito to make the introduction.
Thank you so much. Everyone, Kelly John Walker is an American statesman, senior writer, and entrepreneur, founder of Freedom Talk, host of Freedom Talk TV, and a freelance writer published in the Washington Times, Gateway Pundit, the Epoch Times, George Magazine, Andrew Magazine, Town Hall, and more. Kelly holds a BA in English and Theology and a Master of Science degree on a graduate fellowship with the U.S. Department of Defense. He had a distinguished career as a conservation professional before founding two award-winning advertising agency. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Let me. Hi guys, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can. Happy New Year.
Oh, you too. Thank you. I love you, sisters. You're so wonderful. I remember, I think it was the first time I ever went to America Fest. Oh gosh, maybe it was 2021, and you two were so friendly, and I didn't really know many people, and I just went there and started putting my hand out and meeting people. But it's really great to be here, Cozy. It's great to hear you, and welcome everybody.
It was so wonderful to meet you. This is Alex, and I just wanted to say that when we met you a few years ago as well, it was that instant. Um, we don't know who this man is, but we really love his vibe. And my sister said it best. You were this gentle giant with grace that we just knew right away we were going to get along very well. And a few years later, we've been blessed to get to know you better and learn more about the work that you do, about the activism that you've done within your communities. And, I think one of the things I have loved best about you is you're always so incredibly relatable. At the end of the day, you've done so many beautiful things career wise, but above all, you're this husband and this dad and this man who loves his country. And you want to do everything you can to help heal it. And we're really happy to have you be a part of our community.
Well, thank you. I want to say hi to my friend Shane listening from Colorado. He just texted me that he's listening in. So Shane's just a great guy and a great patriot. But I'm not sure how long I have to speak here, but I thought I'd tell a little bit about my story and how I got here, and then talk about how I've used that to um, transform the whole situation and to bring something that I think is going to help a lot of people. So maybe Cafecito sisters, you can let me know.
Well, this space tonight is all yours because there's a lot of topics that we would like to speak with you about. And then there are probably little conversations such as what happened today, making it official, January 6th, the injustice you personally faced, how all of
Yeah,
this ties
yeah,
into the magazine that you founded,
yeah.
and then a great opportunity that awaits those of
Mhm.
the people that want to jump in, so I would love to dive into those questions. You have time.
Sure.
Cozy and Mark have questions, so that's gonna be like the competition is who's gonna get to ask you the question first.
Okay. Okay. Well, going back to 2019, we had opened a coffee shop in Tucson, Arizona. It's called Viva Coffee House. And we put our savings into it and started it off. We were doing well. I have that marketing and advertising background. So we were growing. And I believe we started October 2018. And at the time, I was also working as editor in chief for a national medical publication that was part of a continuing education company out of Seattle that would train doctors and dentists on the latest technology and techniques and that kind of thing. So at first I was a senior writer and editor for the company, and they had someone else as editor in chief, but they pretty soon realized, hey, I could do it better, and they had been contracting someone, so they brought it in house. So I knew a lot about COVID-19 before much of the public did. One of our doctors that worked on the staff that partnered with this company was Dr. Leslie Fang, who's known as Boston's top doctor. He's one of the top doctors. This is a guy who knows Anthony Fauci personally. So part of my job was to listen to every other week. He would do a very detailed webinar with physicians and dentists all over the country, and part of my job was to create the questions afterwards that people would answer as part of their continuing education. So I don't have the medical background. I have a very strong science background, but I was able to understand all the critical elements of this. And I still have screenshots of very detailed charts, scientific diagrams, studies, you name it, about the virus. And I have to say, Dr. Fang and his fellow physicians and those that I worked with were honest about it at first. They said it's going to be a low mortality virus that's mainly going to affect people with pre-existing conditions, the elderly, those with comorbidities. And so I knew this from the very beginning, that I knew that masks were not only not effective, they could actually cause significant health issues. But I'll say this, and I'll keep it as short as I can. At some point, Trump got involved in talking about hydrochloroquine and everything else. And I watched during one of these webinars this doctor go from uh, touting hydrochloroquine, touting these alternative therapies, saying these are absolutely critical uh, to combat this virus, to 2 weeks later ridiculing them because of politics. And I remember my wife came in to my office after that, my home office after that webinar, and she said my face was just white as a sheet. And um, I said, she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I think I just witnessed a crime against humanity." So I went into this knowing a lot more than the general public would, having the background to understand it. And meanwhile, we had this coffee shop, and kind of out of the blue, we'd been holding back the blue events. We had an American flag sticker in the window and all those kinds of things. Uh, Southern Arizona and Tucson is very, very communist. It it holds a candle to anything you'd find in California or New York. It's terrible. um, we got attacked. I was sitting in the coffee shop. I did all the marketing, the social media, and we started getting just horrible fake reviews, just a wave of abusive comments, threats to kill me and my family, you name it. And it turns out, again, to make a long story short, that the county supervisors, there were 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans, but the chair of the board of supervisors had falsely reported us as non-compliant because he wanted to start their whole business inspection program and kind of pee on his corner, so to speak. So um, it opened up a firestorm, and it was very serious for us because this was the time when you were seeing shop windows being broken and businesses being burned and people being killed in the street and everything else. So again, long story short, I ended up emailing them saying, "Look, you made a mistake." People started sending me information saying, "No, this wasn't a mistake." So they framed us, they set us up. We never ever failed a single inspection, but they treated us as if we had. One of the Republican Board of Supervisors, board directors, invited me to a meeting, and it was interesting because before that, all the meetings were on screen. I still went to the building, but they were taking me up to the office to watch the meeting on the monitor, and all of a sudden they said, "Oh, well, this one's going to be live." And after that, they were all virtual. But it turns out they had set up the live meeting to have me there so that they could trap me. So I ended up getting up to speak, and I started talking, and I was mad. I took the stance of, I'm in charge, you work for me, you work for all of us. And within 30 seconds of starting to speak, they had me surrounded by sheriff's officers, handcuffed and arrested. You can watch that video. Go to realfreedomtalk.com. There's a video on the homepage there that tells some of that story. That was the first of 2 arrests because I have a problem with shutting up. I'm a little outspoken. I was arrested about a year later for sitting in a principal's office defending on behalf of a father whose son had been, number one, forced to wear a mask. He took it off, and then number two, forced to dig it out of the trash and put it back on his face. So I have been arrested twice. The first one was dismissed. The second one ended up going to trial. It was misdemeanor 3 trespassing, but they tacked on a bunch more misdemeanors and they treated it as if it was a felony. I got sentenced to 100 days in jail and $10,000 in fines. I refused to go to jail. So there's still a warrant out for my arrest in Tucson. I wouldn't have paid the fines, but they took it out of our home sale. So they stole illegally $10,000 out of our home sale. I could have appealed it. I would have won, but I had this decision to make. I said, it's going to cost $10,000 just to retain a lawyer for appeal. They already stole $10,000 out of our home sale. We're having to move. And we didn't just move because of that. We moved for work purposes as well. But I had to make this decision. Okay, am I going to totally bankrupt my family and put us into hardship to appeal a bogus conviction? And I decided, I prayed about it, I thought about it. And when they took that money out of our home sale, I said, that kind of is my confirmation. I'm going to defy them. So I refused to go to jail. The judge ordered me to scrub everything off my social media and to stop talking about any of this. And I decided I'm going to talk even louder. So I've been fighting since for a lot of different groups. Let me say this, our coffee shop became this haven, a meeting place, because no one else was doing this. And I've had several people say no one else in Arizona was fighting like you were. And it was very lonely. But then after that arrest, which was, I hadn't known it, but it was televised, we had lines out the door for a couple of weeks after that, people even coming from other states to visit us. And somebody suggested a lawyer, and we had that lawyer for a little while, and he made he put a settlement offer in for $2 million, but it came with a gag order. And this was the first time we'd faced anything like this. And we turned it down and we fired the lawyer because we said, we're not going to be silent. So we walked away from a settlement offer that started at $2 million. What it would have ended up, I don't know. But we just considered it more important to fight for our country. And I asked my wife about it. She said, this isn't why we're doing this. We're not doing this for money. I personally felt like, and people would say, oh, take the money and then go and use it to fight. And I said, well, I can't fight if I don't have a voice. So anyway, the day after the arrest, we had lines out the door. We had people supporting us, praying over me. And I'll tell you, it was this unbelievable experience because we had a round table at the front of the coffee shop. And I was sitting there as person after person was coming. And they're all telling me their stories, and they're praying over me and weeping and saying, oh, finally somebody stood up. This arrest was September 15th of 2020. So it was really early. And I began to just feel what everybody was feeling. Like there was this older lady who came there and she had a black mask on, and we were talking outside the shop, and there was a garbage can out there. And she took the mask off and she said, I don't know if this virus is going to kill me or not, but I can't do this anymore. And it was just such an act of dignity that she threw that mask away. And it was like she was free. So it really, it's hard to explain, but it broke me at a certain level. And this is hard to explain as well, but I began to actually be able to feel what these people were feeling. And I don't care what someone's physical appearance was. I felt like they were so beautiful, and I felt such love toward them. And part of that probably was because I was hardly sleeping. We had our coffee roaster um, very publicly pull out on us because they were woke and we weren't. Fortunately, I had already anticipated this, and we got some other things lined up. But it was just this surreal time, and so our shop became the place where all the medical people who did not want to comply with the vaccine mandates came and met and organized. The police, fire, everybody, you name it. And I'll tell you, even though I was arrested by a sheriff's officer, when we were sitting back in the booking room, he said, "Oh, we're patriots. My wife is going to kill me when I get home." I said, "Well, then why did you do that?" And he said, "Because I didn't want to lose my job." And I looked at him as I'm sitting there in handcuffs, and I said, "Your job is to protect people like me from people like that." And I gave each and every one of those sheriff's officers a tongue lashing, in a respectful way. I said, "Look, I respect law enforcement, but you signed an oath. You took an oath to protect people like me." And it was amazing because when I got out of the booking room, like this lady, she didn't even speak any English. She told me in Spanish, and I speak Spanish. So she said, "Oh, I saw that, and thank you so much." And I have all these kids, and like even the security who would check people in, they said, "Oh," and the lady in the parking garage said, "I like you." She said that in English, limited English, I would say. But I found that it was sort of like this hierarchy where the people in the government sat above everybody, and this board chair by decree had me removed and arrested, which for exercising my First Amendment rights. But there were all these working people who didn't agree with this, but they were subjugated, they were in bondage. And I saw this so much. So I started Freedom Talk then. I ended up getting cancel cultured out of my job because I wasn't woke enough. Our business was being attacked. So I found myself with no income. Um, we never missed a payroll, even if we had to we never paid ourselves, even if we had to come up with what little we had. We never missed payroll. Sometimes we'd have to cover it, and it was this very difficult experience. But I started Freedom Talk magazine. I started taking a print version around, selling ads to business people, and was able to help our finances through that. um, I started a show and a website. I just realized that uh, I recognized several things. One was, if I decide to keep speaking and stand up for these people and champion them, I'm going to have a target on my chest. And I got death threats. I've been investigated by the FBI, both identifying themselves and coming in, and then also monitoring me. You name it, it's kind of come against me. But I had to make that decision. I remember going into the one of the restrooms in our coffee shop after all these people were coming in, and I just, it's very personal, but I fell on my knees and I said, "God, I will sacrifice whatever it takes, my business up to my life, to help these people, to help my country." And it was a very solemn moment because I recognized that this was going to come with um, a significant amount of persecution. I didn't realize just how bad it would be, but um, I think probably each and every one of you would say the same thing. Nothing's more important than our freedom and our liberty. So that's kind of the backstory. We ended up we did everything possible to keep the coffee shop. Dinesh D'Souza came out to speak. I sold tickets for that, got sponsors. Carrie Lake came out and spoke. She became a friend. Uh, I knew her when I first met her when she was giving hats away out of the trunk of her car. And I recognized that I needed to make as many links and connections as I could. I started going to events and meeting people. As it turns out, it's kind of funny because there are congressmen and people who have much larger followings than me who are like, "Kelly, you know everybody. How's this possible? Like, how do you do this?" They come to me for connections, and it's like, well, I just got out there and met people. Like, Um, and I wouldn't take no for an answer. Like one time, there was a line at America Fest to meet one of the guys who was at. His name will come to me. But the security came up and said, "Oh no, I'm sorry. The person in front of you is the last person in line." I said, "Oh, can't you just get me in there? Actually wanted to talk to this person about working for them." And they said no. So I went over to the velvet ropes and looked for a little while, and it was James O'Keefe. And when the security wasn't looking, I slipped back in the line, and then I met James and gave him my card and said, "Hey, I'd like to work with you." So I wouldn't take no for an answer, but it has been it's been a tough road. We live in Tennessee now. I've worked um, freelance for the Epic Times for quite a while now. They took a pause for a little while because they really got um, kind of attacked by the DOJ and the CCP, and there was some restructuring that went on there. I'm working for them a little again. About 8 months ago, um, um, Mike Lindell picked me up and has been using me as a communications director for the Lindell Offense Fund. So I've been able to work on election integrity. And I have to say, for a nobody who started a coffee shop, um, who was doing business for himself, who was brought to the point of being broke and beyond, I've been able to be used in some pretty amazing ways. And I won't say it's been an easy road at all. One of the main guys who online very pointedly and in a detailed manner threatened several times to kill my family ended up suing us, along with a few other people, suing Viva Coffee House. And it's so corrupt there that I'm talking to the FBI, and they're saying, "Oh, this guy's accusing you of cyber harassing him." I'm like, "Not cyber harassing him. Look at these posts and look at these threats." And he said, "Well, that's not really our area." And I said, "Okay, threatening someone to kill someone's family." He says, "Well, okay, that's our area." And a story was that the Tucson police went to this guy's door and knocked on the door. He didn't even open the door. He just said, "I didn't do it." And they said, "Oh, okay," and walked away. So that's how bad it was. Our insurance for the coffee shop ended up covering it, and they said instead of going through this pointless trial, which this guy's going to lose anyway, we're going to offer him $2,500 to go away. So it's just been this journey. We've started a new life here in Tennessee. It's been a lot of ups and downs, but through all of this, I've been searching for um, how can I best serve my country. Much like some of you, I've been an independent content creator. I do have that writing background, advertising. I've written media releases. I'm no stranger to a microphone or a camera. Usually, it was working for other people, putting them in the spotlight, my clients. But I wanted to use what I built with the magazine to help, because we have the Charlie Kirks, the Jack Posobics, so on and so forth, who have these huge followings. Everybody, they all copy each other's information. Some of those guys are nice. I can kind of tell you who's nice and down to earth and who's not. Some of them won't give you the time of day. But so I took a break on Freedom Talk Magazine, and I relaunched it in June of this past year, and did it all digital. I really focused on the quality. I started designing it myself instead of having a designer do it. I've had writers from Eric Metaxas. I've had a piece or two from Dinesh D'Souza. Um, Catalina Stube, the Hispanic Outreach Director for Moms for Liberty, has written 2 articles now. So, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold here. But so I write a lot of the content, but we also have guest writers, guest contributors. And I've just launched a new plan that I want to really help the medium-sized to smaller content producers, activists, but also I've seen so many people who have needed some income, have needed something that they can do to help, because so many people just like me lost jobs. They were cancel cultured out. They wouldn't get a vaccine. They were politically marginalized and forced out, you name it. So I created this new plan. You can go to realfreedomtalk.com and you can see my website. You can go to Freedom Talk Magazine and you could look at some of what we're doing there. But I'm going to outline what we're doing and how it works. So we've got this great publication, and what I'm wanting to do with the publication goes way back to just after that first arrest, when I saw what was happening, that Marxism was breaking into, or had broken into, education, entertainment, everything else. I knew that was infiltrating, but then with COVID, it was really an attempt to grab power, total control of everybody. And a lot of the comments I would get, some of them from young and old, but particularly from young, I realized, hey, these kids have been indoctrinated terribly. And so we're going to have to re-educate. We're going to have to do what the Marxists did, only in reverse, because they infiltrated our education. We have to get into the educational space. They infiltrated entertainment. I've gotten to meet people like Kevin Sorbo and Sam Sorbo. Sam's written for the magazine, and I realized what we're going to have to do is put out a message that's superior to that. And so that's a big part of what I want to do with Freedom Talk. It isn't really a magazine about current events and news, like everybody does that. What it is it's the underlying principles that this country was founded upon, the ethics, the virtues, you might say Judeo-Christian virtues and ethics. It's really the foundation of why we believe what we believe that has become threatened by these demonic, horrible ideologies. And believe me, like Julie Beeling, who produced Beneath Sheep's Clothing and wrote the book of the same name, she's contributed content. James Lindsay, Dr. James Lindsay has contributed content discussing how bad communism is. So you're going to find the articles take a deeper dive. The articles are in print, but we also have audio versions of them, so you can listen to the article. And they really they put what's happening today in the light of what's happened in history. What are these ideas? Are they new, or are they sort of retreads on old ideas? Are they, are we seeing a rise in fascism, but with a new face? How are fascism and communism now combining into this monster? Why is anti-Semitism on the rise? What's behind that? I've made the point in a couple of articles that true Americans are neither communist nor fascist. We're actually we have a good balance of justice and mercy. You might say, some people call it social justice balanced by truth and law. And we are actually the culture that defeated communism and fascism both, and we need to do it again. So I see people kind of lining up left and right. We're something superior to both of those, and we need to remember it. So that's just one example. Each issue is themed. The January issue was a Renaissance, the American Renaissance. It's about a Renaissance of American values. The February issue, which I've already started on, is going to be about love, sex, and relationships. Cafecito Break, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, because you're provoking a lot of questions for me, and I'm wondering if if Cozy or Mark, if they have a question of maybe something you've already covered, if that's okay, because what you're talking about is really, really, really intriguing to me, and I love that it's different, and I think that this is the audience for it. We all resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take maybe 1 or 2 more minutes just to explain how people can come into this, and then I'd be happy to take any questions. So I'll try to make this short, and I have infographics and all of this on how this works. But let's take Spring Hill, Tennessee, for example. It's one of the towns near me. There are a couple guys. They're young. They're starting families or have young kids, but they're both Air Force veterans. Um, they're going to represent Freedom Talk in that town of Spring Hill. So I give them a web page, and we're going to do print versions that it's all the same content that you'd find in the national version online, but they're going to go out and sell ads. They're going to get what is it? Classified listings, and we'll produce issues that are printed locally that have those ads in them, and they're going to get 40% of the ads. And my wife said, "Well, why 40%? You know, a typical commission is 20%." I said, "Because I want it to make a difference in their lives, but also because they're going to take, you know, a few copies of each print version and put it in local coffee shops, waiting rooms, you know, where you wait to get your tires done, medical offices, and that kind of thing." So the idea is that we want to well, to use a left term, but in a positive way, we want to infiltrate society and be where people are, get to that granular level of penetration. And there's more details to that I can answer, but we provide all the support essentially. So like if somebody, let's say they wanted to homeschool, or they needed more income, or they're a veteran, or they lost a job, we essentially give them a whole package. They can take one town, they can take others or sections of larger cities, and they get to make revenue off of that. And we give them all the support. And also on this site, one of the two guys is involved in local politics. He's already written for the magazine, but we're also going to be able on that page to have local news and local issues. And so local politicians are going to submit content. So you'll be able to go to that and see what's happening with the school boards, what's happening with this and that. And then for shows like Cafecito Break, we have another program where they get half of any online subscriptions, and they're helping us recruit people. So my goal is to have people all over the country who are benefiting from this. They're willing to work hard, uh, but that are also helping spread this crucial message that we need to get out there to win back our culture. So anyway, please go ahead with questions.
Yeah, thank you for breaking that down because as I sit here listening to what you're saying, I'm just imagining waiting at a dentist office, and I'm not always interested in just looking at Cosmopolitan. No offense, this would be like a refreshing thing to pick up. I can imagine this in supermarkets locally. I could imagine this at the local beauty salon, and I could imagine this being sort of like how everything that you've been speaking is so based on relationship building,
Mm-hmm.
being tapped in with the community, and a lot of people that we know, and even people who are listening on this call, they all have their own communities specifically
Mm-hmm.
to what they do and their niche. So I'd like to open up the space for questions. And we have two former NYPD gents who are also on the space. I'll bring them up in case they want to ask any questions or maybe fill in or anything that you've already covered because again, I just want to say I'm reading the comments, and we're just really grateful that you are here and you've taken the time to share what you've been through, what you and your family have been through. It is heartbreaking. Stories like yours don't really get shared enough. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
and not that we want to make this about race, but being a tall white man or being just a white man, and then in the category of being a family man before we
And,
even
and, a,
get into
yeah,
Christianity or anything like that, like or
and a large white man too. I mean, I'm literally sitting in court, and my lawyer gets up and questions this principal who put on a Jesse Smollett style show for the media, and he says, "Did Mr. Walker raise his voice at you? No. Did he get up and approach you? No. Did he threaten you? No." And then he sits down, and the prosecutor gets up and says, "Do you feel like Mr. Walker could have done those things? Were you afraid of Mr. Walker?" I was tried on the basis of being a large man, and it's ludicrous. The trial was a mockery. Um, but I have been working hard. I've gone to Washington D.C., spoken to congressional teams. I uncovered the fact that Merrick Garland, the National School Board Association, and the Biden administration, um, how and why they targeted parents as domestic terrorists. I found out through some FOIA emails that I was the first and only person specifically identified. Now, I know a lot of people have been since, but they really focused that first on me and then others. And I've become friends with John Amonchukwu. I know he's been arrested. I said, first time he got arrested for speaking out at a school board meeting, I said, John, welcome to the Handcuff Club. So, hey, DVS, good to see you, man. So please ask your questions.
Cozy?
Yeah, it was nice hearing your story. I haven't heard your story before, so got to hear it now. Uh, so I'm glad that you're one of the good guys and part of our team here, fighting tyranny. So thank you for standing up, standing your ground. You actually answered a lot of my questions that I was thinking. Uh, so yeah, what do you see for the future of this country? Like, what do you think is going to happen in the next like 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. That's a great question, and thank you, by the way. I've seen your posts here and there, and I know you're a fighter. I I'm so very glad that Trump won, and yet in a way, I was dreading it. Let me explain. Um, I think we still have too many people who are relying on the very government that caused the problems to solve the problems. I think obviously Trump is um, leading a new administration. I think they're going to go far, but I think what we should have learned and have learned is that we have to stand on our own 2 feet. And I'm just a regular normal guy who stood up and through a lot of heartache, difficulty, stress, I've been able to do a lot of things. I've been able to really make a stand, and I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my own horn or something, but I talk to Steve Bannon, Ben Berkwam, all those guys quite often. I have friends and contacts deep within Border Patrol. I've been able to get information to them, to the Epic Times. I've become a source. So if a normal guy can do this much, we all need to realize that we are the government. We, the people, are supposed to be running this country. I think the great thing is Trump realizes that he wants to give the power back to the people. But where we go depends on the extent to which we are able to recapture what it means to be an American. We're rebels. We believe that if you govern yourself, if you're a virtuous person, you need very little outside intervention. And I know, and I kind of wonder what our police officers who are listening to this think. But I came to a very reasoned decision to defy that unjust magistrate and refuse to go to jail, refuse to have my family put through hardship. I think we have the right to do that. And I'll tell you something, law enforcement officers backed me like you wouldn't believe. I had a sheriff's officer who came into our shop and said, we all, they basically ostracized the guy who put the handcuffs on me. He said, I would have quit my job before I would have made that arrest. And I'll tell you, like, it's hard to stand up. It's hard to be defiant. It's hard to stand on principle, but we have to do it. There's no shortcut, you know? So my concern is that people are going to sort of go on autopilot. Hey, everything's fine. Trump's in charge. Even way back when, I realized, Cozy, that those of us who held the line, who stood up and took the hits, eventually some politicians and you know influencers, so to speak, and such would step up and take credit, but they weren't there. And it's not that we need credit, but I realized that some people would then come forward and say, see, Trump's in, it was no big deal, you made a fuss over nothing. So we have to keep the fight going. We have to recognize that we won a battle with the election, but the war rages on, and we have to keep fighting.
Yeah, I just want to ask, see, to me, like, the biggest fear right now, and I think the biggest threat, and I want to hear your take on this, is this world government, right? We know it's coming. They're trying to get this. We see it here in New York in terms of like congestion pricing, right? They want to charge us now $9 to get into the city. You know, they're shutting down lanes, creating more congestion, and this is my fear is like these, little tiny cities, these smart cities, and just like, you know things like the World Health Organization, things like, having these different bodies trying to regulate us. And you said it. You said it. You said, like, we the people. We know that we are supposed to be the government, but we know that that hasn't been happening. Right? It's been co-opted, and
Yeah.
I love what you were saying about, like, educating people in terms of like their rights, and educating them of like what it is to be an American, pretty much, right? Like, what are our principles, and like teaching the youth that, I think, is going to be very important in defeating this Marxism and this communism that they've been indoctrinated with. So, like, thank you for doing that, and we all need to be doing more of that, right? My question to you is, how do we stop this world government from taking over?
I was just going to mention on our website, I have a new page. It's called Unsung, and it's highlighting people who've made great sacrifices over the last 5 years for our country, but maybe are off the radar. And I put my wife up there as the first one because I needed to kind of figure it all out. But we ended up taking in a 2-year-old boy from a mom who went to prison for J6. We thought it could have been for up to 4 years. Fortunately, thank God, it turned out to just be a couple of months. But I bring this up because one of the things that we have to do is we have to be like a big family. We have to take care of one another. We have to watch each other's backs. And I think the way that we stop this and what they're afraid of and why they did all the spacing and keeping people in their houses, China literally locked people in, is they do not want us coming together because they know that even a small number of people who are determined, who have each other's backs, are, are dangerous to them. And when we had our coffee shop, I really, really tried to get through to people. You have to consider other people's needs as important as your own. There's some scriptures around that, but I would say, go babysit for some new parents so they can have a date, or if somebody lost a job, take some food over there, help them find a job. We ended up turning our coffee shop soon after they shut down our dining room. We turned it into a de facto food bank. We started with one table with our toilet paper from our bathrooms because we didn't have, obviously we didn't have public restrooms anymore, with a few food items. People would come in and take something and leave something else. We ended up, because people would see this and they would bring in more things, we ended up with 5 tables full of stuff, including toilet paper, which was very hard to find. And even the food bank locally shut down. We became the de facto food bank. So really, honestly, you know, fighting back, being defiant, working on laws, all of those things are very, very important. Um, the the um, the bans on certain things like Bud Light, those are important. But laws, politicians, bans, all those things are important. But there's no substitute for us coming together. There's no substitute for reseeding American values back into people's minds. We have to transform the culture. And part of the problem, as you know, Cozy, one of the biggest problems right now is, besides China and the CCP, besides the deep state, we have a significant amount of our population that is they're the useful idiots. They're your neighbor could be against you. I mean, we had people in our community threatening to kill my family, and so we have to stand together. And this is one of the main things that I'm working to do with Freedom Talk Magazine, is bring a lot of us together, combine our forces. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just gonna step in for a second. We are just a reminder. We are from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday. If you want to follow Kelly, if you're not already, just click on the photo, click the follow button, as well as any of the hosts on here. We have DVS and John also joining us. I'm going to get to them to see if they have any other questions. I'm actually going to wrap up personally myself. The show's obviously going to continue, but I got to take care of some things, so I'm not going to be able to be here for the full show. I do want to touch on that congestion pricing, though, since Cozy brought it up. And we talked about it on our Instagram feed, the New York Stands Together page. Um, it is in effect for personal vehicles. It's $9. Uber and Lyft was also lobbying it. So this is, I believe, 59th Street and down. During the daytime is $9. It's reduced in the late hours. But if you're going into the city, they read your plate and it's $9 for going in. If you leave and come back, it's another $9, and that's the same for trucks. It doesn't apply apparently to. I heard I'm hearing different things from different people, but with Uber drivers, they pay once for the day since they have to keep going in and out. And Uber and Lyft have been lobbying to get this done for years because when you think about it, people are less likely to drive in as a result and more likely to pay for an Uber, and they're going to end up paying that fee. But at the same time, Uber's going to get more business because the driver pays the fee once, the customer's going to pay the fee every single time if they're going in and out of the city. So it's a little crazy how we have lobbyists, whether it's local politics in New York or lobbying congressional members and things of that nature to get their things done. I mean, they call it lobbying, but at the same time, it's bribing because they're funding their campaigns. Oh, we'll fund your campaign so you could win, but pay to play basically. So it's crazy how that goes on. There's a lot of things that I talked about. I ran as an anti-corruption candidate when I was running for U.S. Senate. A lot of local ideas as a city council candidate, state assembly candidate. I don't know if I'm running again in the future, but there is a lot of things that do need to be done. So I agree with you in some aspects on that. Kelly, I am glad that Trump won. I do see your point on there. I do appreciate you fighting, and there's a lot of freedom fighters with all their different stories across the country. You have Ian Smith in New Jersey. You had our guys in Max Public House in Staten Island, New York. You have Baselka's out in California. Um, Patriot Barbie. All these business owners that
Yeah,
all had their own battles, and I'm glad you highlighted some of the ones that are lesser known that you mentioned. I think you said the top 50 or something like that. So I do appreciate you. We are on for another hour. I'm sure that
likewise.
I'll be sure to. I did follow you on Instagram and Twitter just now, so I'll be keeping in touch with what you're doing. And have a great rest of the show, everyone. And thank you again. Make sure you're following everyone on the page, and I'll see you guys next week.
Look forward to talking to you more, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mark.
Mark.
Yeah, Ian Smith came down to our coffee shop too. We became friends pretty early on because we had similar stories. Lindsey Graham, Patriot Barbie, we're good friends as well. So all these connections are just fantastic. DVS, Sean, we've become friends. We both have some experience with the in the Chinese expatriate dissident space. So I have a little story about New York. I'll just keep it quick, but I ended up doing some writing for the new federal state of China for quite some time, which I got very deep into research about the corruption in the DOJ, the CCP, and their plans. Um, DVS knows this. But then I found myself one day, I brought to New York for the first time. Believe it or not, I had not been to New York before, and meeting with the staff there of New Federal State of China. And all of a sudden they said, hey, Miles wants to have you up to his place for lunch. And here I am again, nobody, and I'm being the guest of honor for lunch in the overlooking Central Park with a billionaire. And they said that only a few other people, Bannon and Navarro and some others, had been up there. And they said he even brought you to see his personal quarters, his room, and they've never done that. And I thought, what I puzzled over that, like, well, why? Well, first of all, he loved my writing, but I've kind of figured it out. He realized that I got it. He saw what I wrote and he said, this guy understands the fight. And Cozy, I have to say, one thing that I try to get through to people, and you probably all know it, is we're not trying to avoid World War III. We've been in it for a while. And if you're familiar with the book Unrestricted Warfare by these two Chinese colonels, they lay that out. I've become friends with Boone Cutler, and he actually lives pretty close by. He wrote with General Flynn the Fifth Generation Warfare books. So we're in a different kind of war. There was one of the FBI whistleblowers who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, very, very tough conditions. But he became an FBI whistleblower, and he literally said, he told the Epic Times that this is worse than anything he experienced overseas because these people will go after your family. They'll psychologically stalk you. It is a very, very real war. And behind the scenes, there are some other things going on um, where their plan is multifaceted, and at some point, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They would do a Chinese version of a Pearl Harbor attack on us when we're vulnerable. They want to avoid kinetic warfare. They want to avoid a head-to-head. But if or when they feel we're weak enough, their goal is to take us over. Their goal is to spread communism. So, are there more questions? DVS, how's everything going with you?
I'm here. Oh, everything's been pretty good, man. I'm working on a couple things coming up. Hopefully, in the next day or two, you'll start seeing some flyers for something I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Well,
And hopefully, it's the kickoff of a lot of new stuff in the Hispanic community area. So Cafecito Sisters will be I'll be reaching out to you soon.
you have the
uh,
van. You're the man with the van. I,
yeah.
I joke with DVS that I have a criminal record now. There's a warrant for my arrest, so I'm reading Rap for Dummies, and I'm gonna start a rap career. I think short lived though. Well, you've been a great friend. I invited DVS to it was in Nebraska. I think Jack Sobek's brother Kevin was there. Dr. James
Mhm.
Lindsay was there, and if you can imagine Sean literally in a big horse barn with a bunch of farmers rapping. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That was totally not the crowd, but it was great. It
But
was good.
yeah, it was a great experience. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm. Yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
They were rocking on the inside. You just
Yeah,
couldn't
no,
tell.
they were rocking. They were rocking for sure, but just as much as they could.
It was crazy because here's, a lot of farmers and ranchers and such, and everybody after they got up and spoke, they said, "Man, tough crowd," because they're just sitting there stony faced. And I kind of understood it because I've worked on farms and different things like that. But after we spoke, people came up and they were like, "Thank you so much. That was so moving."
Oh yeah, yeah, me too. Me too. They were just old. Yeah.
Out
I
of
was a little
control.
worried. Yeah, you're like, "What's this rap person doing in here?" But
They're like, yeehaw.
Mhm.
they were rocking on the inside. But um,
Yeah.
so more questions or comments?
Um, I was thinking about that congestion thing. I think that is one of those things that like requires like pandemic level like protesting almost. Like one of those things that we got to be so pissed off about because there's just a billion reasons why it's just pure criminal like to combine it with everything that they're doing. The lights, for example, the lights are yellow for like a half of a second. And so you'll see a light turn yellow when you're going across the light and it's already red and you get a flash on you. You learn how normal lights go when you're in like places like Florida and all these other places. And you'll see you could be a whole block away and see a yellow light and be like, okay, I got plenty of time, I'll make it, and you'll be okay. They're not gonna try and hustle me for for all these tickets. But New York is with the congestion pricing now, and then the prices of tolls like everywhere you got to go to in New York. Um, and then it's like the quality of the subways here are absolute trash, and then they raise the price. When when the quality of stuff is diluted, the price is also diluted in every other area of life. But here, the quality of life and the quality of the roads, the quality of the just the order here is pure trash, like you won't see anywhere else in the whole country. Yet this is the most expensive. I learned this real quick going through driving from California all the way here. I think made an entire trip from California in like 36 hours with Mark, by the way, and the whole trip didn't cost as much as it costed to arrive in New York and pay double of what that entire trip cost me in tolls. You immediately realize when you're in New York, the moment you hit the county line, I mean the state line, you come in and instantly you hit a speed bump. I mean a pothole, and that's the whole way. You could feel totally smooth the whole way until you get to New York. And in New York, you got these trash, garbage streets, the most dangerous freaking subways, the most ridiculous level of cameras and speed lights everywhere, and all this crap. And it's criminal. These people need to be like seriously indicted for pure crime and what's the word? Uh, Extortion.
Forcing, yeah. Hey,
It's-
CBS, this is where, um,
Bro, it angers the hell out of me. You have no idea the passion I have against this
yeah,
freaking criminal level of toll and ticketing that they do here. It's
Um,
outrageous.
1 second. John has his hand up, and I don't know if he wants to say something regarding congestion pricing or maybe something that Kelly's brought up. John, welcome to the space. John, Kelly, John is one of the former NYPD. If you could introduce yourself real quick, John to Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly, how you doing? I'm John McCary. I'm forced retired. I say constructively terminated from the NYPD over refusal to comply with the vaccine mandate. My good friend Marlon Bethel below me actually held on even longer, would not put his papers on, and was terminated. He remains terminated without ever being charged criminally or administratively by the NYPD. First in history. And so I appreciate your fight, and I think you're very brave for what you did, standing up legally and putting your freedom on the line. So I commend you. It's a great story that you have. We founded the Finest Unfiltered podcast, and we've created a community to push back at the politicians, and it's honestly it has put us at odds with both the Democrat Party in New York City as well as the Republican Party in New York City. So I have a question, but before I do, I just have a comment about congestion pricing. Congestion pricing is yet just another one of these elitist things that we're seeing being brought in by globalists. Really, we're being treated, middle class, working class, and the poor are being treated as peasants. We're being Congestion pricing has been brought in under the guise of it's going to make our air cleaner. But yet, when you look at all of the people celebrating it, they're driving around in cars, paying these exorbitant prices to drive in Manhattan, and touting the minutes they've saved on their commute. So it actually has nothing to do about saving the environment or reducing traffic. It has to do with you should be
mm,
rich to drive around New York City. And if
yes,
you're not, driving around New York City is for us. And they're going to move it into other areas of New York City, wealthy areas of New York City. Obviously, the poorest congressional district in New York City is the South Bronx. It's comprised of, I believe it's 99% black and brown, and the air quality is the worst there. The asthma is the worst there, but you won't see congestion pricing there. You're going to see congestion pricing in Astoria, Queens. You're going to see it in Manhattan. You're going to see it in the ritzy parts of Brooklyn. You're going to see it in anywhere where the elites want to roam and keep the riffraff out, basically the middle class and the poor. So we've been pushing back at politicians. With that, we do have politicians trying to latch on to us as well. So we've been able to get a mayoral candidate for 2025 to state that part of his policy would be to reinstate city workers, cops, firefighters, teachers, nurses, medical professionals who were terminated during the vaccine mandate. And I think that's big, and we're trying to interject that into the conversation. And so, that's what we've been doing is basically podcasting, going out on social media, and using our own names and our own character and our backgrounds to highlight exactly what the hell's happening in New York City. And really, the people that we feel should be supporting us, which is the Republican Party, I think are more at odds with us than the far left socialist Democrats in New York City. And, I watched them actually gaslight everybody by telling them that we beat congestion pricing when Kathy Hochul just put it on hold until after the election. And, I was basically started yelling it from the rooftops. I'm like, she's putting on this on hold until after the election. And the Republicans and all of the conservative influencers are all reporting that we beat congestion pricing and Kathy Hochul. And I'm like, this is complete gaslighting. Like, you're working hand in hand with these far left progressive elitists. And we see it time and time again when it comes to Eric Adams. We're being told that he fought against the borders being, he wanted the borders to be closed when for 3 years he advocated for the borders to be open. And my question to you is, you've been through a lot, and how have you made any headway with any parties or any politicians whatsoever? Because I personally believe that when I look at New York, I'm not talking about the country as a whole, I'm talking about New York City. When I look at New York, I just see a completely captured one party, and there
Yeah.
really is absolutely no opposition. And I'm just wondering, have you been able to see any effective legislation and change through your advocacy?
Well, John, thank you. It's good to meet you. Let me just say, I'd love to swap show appearances with you, and I'd like to use Freedom Talk in any way that we can to help with the issue. Ultimately, if we get some people set up with areas and distributing those areas, print publications, having a web page, we can not only help inform people in the different boroughs or areas, but some of these issues we can kick up to the national level. And I have a good media release list. We can get this to on some shows and such. I want to tell you real quick. Um, uh, I love law enforcement, and I say back true blue. And what I mean by that is back those who are going to uphold their oaths instead of just being order takers. And I commend you for making a stand. I really do. There was a time when you know the anti-cop movement was at its um, height. I remember sitting with the wife of an officer, and she was crying and saying, the kids and I are really afraid Daddy's not going to come home." And I just put my arm around her and I said, and this was surreal to be able to say this because, the cops protect us. I said, if things get really bad, you come here and we'll protect you, because I knew we had the community around us. We had a place for them. So that was kind of an amazing thing. Um, yes, I have been able to make a difference, and I would say it's kind of being an influencer to the influencers. I don't have the huge public following like Benny Johnson or someone, but I interact with a lot of members of Congress. I have access to just about anybody. People in the media look to me, and it helps that I have been a writer, and ran an agency and all that kind of thing, because I have some skills to contribute, but really just being persistent and constantly speaking out. Um, One example might be that I was writing and speaking about lawfare using that term before really anybody was, and it's now common parlance. Did I have an effect on that? Did I help bring that to the to the front? Maybe. I know that in terms of the fight to for parents who were targeted, school parents who were targeted as domestic terrorists, I've definitely had an impact there. I mean, I wrote an email, gosh, I want to say a year and a half ago, and sent it to several congressmen. And Jim Jordan immediately put a staff of 5 people to look into it and investigate it. So, a lot of these things, unfortunately, are hurry up and wait. Politics runs very, very slow. Um, but also, I mean, I'm working for Mike Lindell, and I've been writing the fundraising emails and media releases and everything else. So, has my writing had a chance to influence people? Yeah, probably. And I was there. I met with former Democrats in Chicago, and I'm talking a whole room full of Black Democrats who voted for Biden, who came up to tell their stories about how the Democrat Party let them down, and they took funds that were supposed to go to the communities and gave them to the illegal immigrants. And one of those guys, he's an ex-con. He's running for Senate. He asked me if I could help him with this campaign. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely, we can all make a difference. And it's funny, John, because sometimes you look at the numbers, maybe listeners or whatever, and you think, how is it possible I'm making a difference? Well, it turns out where we moved here in Tennessee, there's somebody right in this neighborhood who's been following the show, my show, following me, and we don't know. And so I think sometimes social media doesn't give us the right numbers, but really it's not always about how many people you reach. It's about who you reach and how what you've done could change a life. And I'll tell you, from what we did in that little coffee shop, um, we've had people say that we meant everything to them. We had a little girl who wrote a school paper. They had an assignment to write about COVID, and she said she talked in this paper, and her mom brought and showed us the paper. She talked about how this was so difficult for her. She even had suicidal thoughts. Everything was dark. She said, but there was this one coffee shop that gave me hope. And I just think, like, man, by being there for the community, it, doing things with, whether it be a fundraiser for somebody or just saying to somebody, hey, the coffee's on us today, it literally saved lives. It's mind blowing. So you never know what God is doing through you. You never know the impact that you're having. So keep speaking out. Keep up the fight. I hope that helps answer your question, John.
Yeah, no, that was great. I was. That's all I wanted to know. And I do feel we've had a huge impact, both in the politics of New York City, amongst the rank and file of the NYPD, to expose a lot of the corruption that happens, that's been happening, unfortunately, in the NYPD, and as well as the ills of the politics of New York City. So I agree. I always say we're a small but a mighty force. So I appreciate you, brother, and I'll definitely be in touch with you.
Likewise, I look forward to it, John. Please do. You know, I love this saying. It's always too early to quit, and you never know if the people that you're fighting against, the policies and everything else, you never know if they're on their last leg. You never know if they're just reaching the point where either they're going to give up or they start to see things and they get red pilled. I don't know what's going on with who is it that um, is it the mayor of New York, Eric Adams? What is he? I'm trying to remember. Kathy Hochul's the governor. He seems to have woken up. Maybe you guys can help me. I'm it's a little late. My mind's skipping out on me, but it seems like even some people who've been on the left, who've been Democrats, and I've seen them. I had people come into my coffee shop. I had a black lesbian, half black, half Dominican lesbian couple come into my coffee shop, and I recognized them from Instagram. They were in Seattle in this autonomous community, Chaz or Chop, They were beating the drums for Black Lives Matter. They were watching our page, and it helped wake them up. And they said, "Wait a minute, Black Lives Matter isn't about love. It's about hatred." And it's like they started to see this as a Marxist movement. So they actually moved down to Southern Arizona, and on their way, they wanted to stop at a little coffee shop. And how different could we be? I'm a big, tall, monogamous, straight white guy, and here's these two beautiful women. At first I said, "Are you sisters?" They said, "No, this is my fiance." But we found this common ground, and she's a musician. She's still in the music industry. She keeps her views private because she could lose her audience if she didn't. But another young couple came in. They were hard left. The gal said, and you could tell by looking at them, they woke up. We struck up a conversation. Ended up having a spur of the moment interview and show with them. So um, sometimes, John, I think it might be a person at a time. We want things quick. We want this to be over. We want decisive wins. But what I recognize and what I'm doing with Freedom Talk is we've got to do the hard work. We've got to do the long term work. And if we keep speaking the truth, if we keep like who was it? Anna Kasparin from Young Turks. Mike Lindell has been on an interview with the Young Turks several times with Cenk and Anna. Anna said that she had this neighbor. He was always really nice and helpful. They got along so well. One day she found out he was a Trump supporter. And now here she is basically walking away from the Democrat Party and saying, look, it hasn't been the Republicans who've made my life difficult. It's been the Democrats. So um, obviously, if you're a believer, you believe that God can work through you to reach people. I truly believe that. I don't wear my faith on my sleeve, but um, I believe by how you live your life. And Freedom Talk Magazine is never going to do the liberal tears or mocking people for different beliefs. We want to present a better message. We're not going to say, that we're okay with child mutilation and things like that, but we want to explain to people why a healthy what is a healthy relationship and why. I've gotten the chance to know Chloe Cole, Riley Gaines. They have great messages, and they haven't done it out of hatred or making fun of people, but they do it through courage and showing their humanity. And I know Chloe in particular has had a lot of young people come to her for advice, and that's a beautiful thing.
Um, one second. Rose Angel, are you having issues with your microphone, your connection?
Did any of you hear me before?
No, but what I got a message up top saying the host is having connection issues. I think you're okay though.
Yeah, that was really weird. Yeah, we're having spotty connection all day, but I'm grateful that the chat has continued. The Anybody has any more questions? We're getting to the point of the show where, we start winding down because we've had, Kelly, with us today. We want to be respectful of your time, Kelly, and everybody who's here, a part of this discussion. Apologize for the glitches. Um, I just want to just take a moment to say that I'm grateful to just be in the space with all of you. I feel like you guys are all like modern day heroes, and it's really to me, no accident that we all find ourselves in this space, that many of us have been tested and weathered
Mhm.
through many, many, many trials.
Yes.
And but all of it, I feel at the center of it, God has been there, because when I've heard in different moments, the brothers and sisters on the space communicate part of their journey and life lessons, like that that faith, right? This is also what's been missing, in many of the places that we're talking about. I really do believe, I mean, I know that people get into semantics about, ay Dios mío, it should be Christian or it should be like this. My thing is, faith is missing, the moral foundation is missing
Mhm.
in many of these places that feel lifeless. And I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you, Kelly, for sharing, and for being so focused on not giving up despite those dark times. Like,
Mm-hmm.
COVID was really, really dark.
Yeah. Me siento que estoy hablando con familia. I feel like I'm talking with family, and I want to say, like, we all have different talents and different roles to play, and I think some people right now who are on stage a lot, who have big followings, making a lot of money, um, God's not necessarily looking at them. They might be looking at the single parent who's taking care of their kids, or the widow, or and I would never want anybody to feel like, hey, to make a difference, I have to be on camera, I have to be a guest speaker. You know, things that we think are small can make a big difference, and everybody who's willing to step forward is important, no matter what your role is. Cozy, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I just want to piggyback off of what Rose Angel said. Trying to get my hand down. Um, she said something that kind of inspired the thought in saying, like, we all have something similar, that, we come to this space, or the way we
Mm,
meet, all of us have something very similar. And what I think that is the love for freedom. Okay, that's one thing that can connect us, whether it's from the left to the right to anything in between. The love for freedom, and the human spirit that
mm,
wants to express itself. Okay, you're not going to shut us up. We're going to speak truly and freely. And these are the type of people that I naturally, merge with. People magnetically attract. We're all, look at us right here in this space, and we all come together from all walks of life. People from all over the planet. People reaching out to me from Canada, from Australia, from Japan, New
mm.
Zealand, South America. Uh, you know, Greece, Italy, whatever, you name it. We're all coming together because of freedom. We want to be free, and the human spirit will be free as long as there's people like us here, like all of you guys and girls, just not giving in to tyranny and not giving in to evil. We're here to spread truth, spread love, create and create a better, a harmonious place. So thank you all for keeping this torch alive, and we're going to keep this torch alive. That's our job. That's our duty, and we know it. There's nothing, nothing going to stop it. Like, there's no amount of money. There's not a job or anything that will stop us from doing that, right? Like, we're doing this naturally. We've lost everything in order to fight for this. And thank you all, man. Keep it going. I love you guys.
Well said. Well said. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I mean, being that it's January 6th, I'm wondering if it's okay with all of you. Like, uh, how do you feel about this day? Trump has been certified. This is a big day for Puerto Ricans, especially on the islands. It's been in many ways. I've said this on the space, because of the politics. A lot of things that are traditional moments for us have gotten hijacked, even down to the murder of the CEO. Like, whether or not people think the Christmas tree lighting is a pagan holiday, I understand things like this, but I'm looking at it from the perspective of holidays, bringing people together, family and friends together, um and for faith, whatever it is. But in regards to Christianity and celebrating Christmas, a lot of these iconic moments, like the lighting of the Rockefeller tree, what was dominating the headlines that day?
Mm,
The manhunt. January 6th should be really a day where we're also, if we're not thinking about what's happening in Washington, maybe we're thinking about something that's a holy day, but it's been hijacked.
yeah. Yeah. For sure. Well, hijacked, and frankly, a lot of the people in Tucson, in New York, in California, they're being held hostage, um, and these ideologies are horrible. And whether or not they know it, they need us. They really do need us. And I know it can't be easy to live in a place like New York where you're constantly fighting for justice, fighting the authorities. But um, I think you're important. I want to say, if anybody would like to subscribe to the digital version of Freedom Talk magazine, just go to realfreedomtalk.com. If you know, I know how it is. Sometimes you're looking for a change in the couch. If $5 a month is a little bit much, just reach out to me and I'll fix you up with a subscription. But any way that I can serve you or help you guys, and um, we are all Americans, and I care what happens in New York. I care about what you guys are doing. So just please do not be a stranger.
Yeah, I had a question for you, Kelly. You mentioned, you were in Tucson when that happened, Tucson, Arizona, and to us, like from New York, it always seemed like Arizona was like a free state, So how could this possibly happen to you in Tucson, Arizona, right? Like I had a friend who actually lived in New York all his life and left because of the COVID tyranny. He left to Arizona, right? So it's pretty shocking to many of us.
Yeah, we went through a lot. I remarried about 14 years ago. We went through a lot of attacks for me wanting to be a father and stay in my eldest son's lives. Experienced the left there, and one of the reasons we moved to Tucson is we were so just tired of the left. I'd been to Tucson many times when I was younger, and uh, believe it or not, Tucson is the most left wing place in Arizona. The mayor there is literally a member of the Communist Party. It's terrible down there. It really is, and I didn't know that. And it's funny because later on I was talking about how we moved to Tucson to escape the left, and somebody who knew Tucson well just laughed at that and said, "Boy, did you make the?" We went there to have a quiet life, and we failed miserably. But I what you've seen in Maricopa County, and I believe in every part of Arizona, they are held captive because there's so much corruption there that I think I think it is a red state, but the minority has gotten control of the election system. The cartels run much of the state, particularly in Tucson, and I believe they've stolen elections. I was there when Kerry Lake. I do believe, I don't know about the Senate race because I haven't been involved in that, but I do believe that they stole the governor's race. There's no way on earth Katie Hobbs legitimately won that. But
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty obvious, right? Like we all knew we're like, this is impossible. Impossible.
yeah, but yeah, it's and we have to fight too because now we're in central Tennessee, and it's it feels like moving back to America again. But there's attacks here. My wife said that Soros and some others will fund to move people into conservative areas. We've had the transgender parade here and all those things, which a lot of people don't like, but they just force their way in, and they appropriate your culture, and it's fine and good for them to down your culture and call you bigots, but do you dare speak out against them? So yeah, you guys are in a tough area, but we even areas that seem to be red, that seem to be conservative, we're going to have to be on our guard, and we're going to have to work hard. Frankly, we need to stop anybody who's being intimidated by the left. We need to stop letting them take the high ground because they don't have it. They're going against thousands of years of history and the learning of humanity and normalcy, and we can't let them take the high ground anymore.
Kelly, I have a question, and maybe the brothers here, if they can help fill in some of the, like, this thought process, right? Because we're talking about in New York City, there is such a protection around, you know, not offending certain groups, down to the fact. So I'll give you a prime example. What happened, I believe, in the Bronx recently, where there was a fight in the deli over a sandwich or who was gonna go next in line, and next thing you know, it is reported that quote unquote a woman got into a fight with a man who was actually a postal worker. Cut to kills the postal worker.
Jeez.
But then my question here is, like, and because you're also in touch and you have a line to a lot of these people who are, in Washington. This is things that people are writing into legislature, and the media is not helping when they are covering it as a woman did this.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're not, and it's tough. And these people, the Rainbow Coalition, it's not anymore, and if it ever was, about acceptance, because we're not bigots. We love everybody, even if we disagree with them. It's about indoctrination. They've been bullies, and I know I know very good uh, people. I have some friends who are gay. They do, they have lifestyles that are different than mine. We respect the differences, and they don't like Pride Month. They don't like all of this. In fact, and then they do not like the whole transgender movement and mutilating children. So uh, uh, we can agree on 99% of things, have some disagreements, and we can respect that. I can respect that somebody sees areas differently than me, but I shouldn't be bullied by it. Okay. um, if you make the choices for your household, you make the choices according to your conscience, but you shouldn't be able to force that upon me. And I think what we have to do, and like one of my first interviews, so I did some interviews for a while for Epic Times and NTD News. I interviewed this fellow who was with Gays Against Groomers, and we had a great interview, and we found a lot in common. But he wouldn't have wanted to push anything on me. I didn't want to push anything onto him. We were two human beings talking. Like, I don't talk about my personal private bedroom life, and it doesn't define me. It's a part of my life. So I think what we have to do is hold our ground and not be intimidated, and have good answers. Like, um, no, I'm not a bigot. I hold I hold sex to be very sacred. I hold a person's identity to be very sacred. Why are you disrespecting me? Okay, I'm not hating on anyone. I love the sacredness of this, and this is part of my culture. We have to start using some other terminology and throwing it back in their faces. Not That's a wrong way to say it, but let's use some of their terminology and show them that, hey, you're being a hypocrite right now.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I like to ask you, if there's anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share as a message, and then we can start. I guess wrap. If anybody doesn't have any questions, we could start offering wrap out comments and any messaging, contact information that we'd like to share.
I would just say, please do visit realfreedomtalk.com. There's some great articles there, shows, resources, and let me know how I can help. And please keep in mind too that I worked in branding, marketing, and advertising. I'm a writer. I've done a lot of ad campaigns. So if you ever need help with something that you're doing, like where you need to get attention for an issue, feel free to contact me, because I'd be happy to be a sounding board and help however I can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And let's see, John McCary.
Yeah, I got nothing. I just, I appreciate Kelly coming on and sharing his experience with us. And I look forward to, collaborating further in the future. And obviously, always Cafecito and Cozy. Thank you for hosting the space. Big shout out to Sally and Mullen that are here. And that's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on changing the face of this next upcoming mayoral race, to have all of these candidates make a statement, to get people like Maureen Bethel back to work with back pay and a public apology. We've gotten one candidate to do it so far. We're going to be working on Curtis Sliwa next, and then we're going to go down the line with all of them. And I honestly, at this point, anyone that isn't willing to put out the public statement or can't have the conversation, I don't believe that they have the spine to be the mayor, or they even have the spine to even win an election in New York City, because it's going to be a hard conversation. It's going to be a hard road, and I'm sick of watching this conversation be controlled by people that really are immoral and honestly somewhat demonic, and it is what it is. And we've obviously not us, we've been speaking out and demonized for it, all of us on the space. And I just think we need to go further, so we're going to be working on that. And I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. And plug in where people and at what time they could listen to your podcast, please.
Oh, sure. We go live usually every morning, 08:05. We're on X, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, on every major audio platform. We've been growing a lot lately. We've been always on the come up, but a lot more significantly lately. So, and I do believe that, that's at God's hand. And, so the community that's been being built, I think, is a very important and vital one, not just surrounding the corruption in New York City, but actually bringing, some common sense into politics, and just some real voices into politics. Regular people, not people trying to get you to vote for them. People whose lives are affected by these policies. People who understand these policies. People who understand how policies implement and how it'll affect people. And it really is. It's such a diverse community, and we get touted as an openly racist platform, and it's the funniest thing to me to watch, because it's literally the last argument that they have left is, "Oh, you guys are racist." Like, okay, the whole community is made up of every creed, color, race, gender, sexual preference, and we're all on there expressing our views, different professions, different backgrounds, and I'm just it's honestly, as much as it's been a trying few years, it's also been a blessing, and I feel blessed to be a part of this community. So
Yeah. I if I can, I'd like to leave you guys with just a quick story that I think, John, you'll get a kick out of if there's a moment. Um,
Yeah, please.
okay, so I last year I went to America Fest, and I didn't know if flying back to Arizona, since there was a warrant for me in Tucson, Pima County, if maybe somebody would be waiting for me at the airport. Literally, this was done in traffic court, and it's such a joke, but so I've gotten to be good friends with Sheriff Mark Lamb out there, if you've heard of him, America's Sheriff. And I asked him, he said, no, I don't think they're going to do that. But I know some people were watching this, and it turns out that I stayed with some people from Mom Army and Seek Smith, and one of them was running for Maricopa County Sheriff, and I saw Mark there, and we talked, and we had a great talk. And by the way, Mark said this is BS, Kelly. He knows that this is just crooked as can be. But this fellow running for Maricopa County Sheriff ended up bringing me to an event that Sheriff Lamb was speaking at, to be sort of a surprise for him. And we ended up going out to dinner afterwards. So I put up this post for all my followers, and I said, well, I went to Arizona and I was apprehended by law enforcement, and they took me out to dinner. It was pretty. And then Mark said, Kelly, I know what you're saying there, and I love you, but can you take that down? People are starting to ask some questions. But it was funny because I was apprehended by law enforcement there in Arizona, but it all turned out good.
Imagine a lot of people were afraid to even disobey a mandate like do not remove your mask because I could see your nose. And then that was a fight. I mean, people really got into fights over that one thing that we started out having this discussion. We people already knew was false, fake news.
Yeah.
And I really believe that the mask has caused, just that part alone. I'm not talking about all the rest of the atrocities. Having people, conditioning people to wear their masks, they're still wearing them,
Yeah.
even if they're not physically wearing them, but it has definitely gotten in the way of human to human communication. And every single time I we activate these spaces, what I love about what all of you do is that however you're doing it with this this almost this there's a grace there in the way, and authenticity. It doesn't feel fake, it feels reachable. When we're talking about something like congestion pricing, you have politicians who are shocked that people haven't received this with with the same excitement that they did. I mean,
Mm.
we really do live in a very weird world, and if it's not for people like yourself in corners of the world, in the United States, in little towns, being true to your word, I mean, it would be really lonely. I really believe, we've said this many times, it has been the community that we fortified that got us through those dark moments in COVID where everybody was very, very scared. And we're teetering on messaging right now from mainstream media, from certain people that feel very similar, whether we're talking about drones, UAPs, storms, internet connections, you name them. Quackdemic, the first person died of bird flu supposedly today. Like, they're throwing everything at us.
Mm. Gosh.
Cozy?
Yes, I have so much to say. Just don't fear. Listen, I'm a short guy. If you guys see me, I have glasses. I'm a short guy, and was never intimidated by anybody on the trains. Trying people trying to bully you into putting that mask on. It did not work. My spirit is like 1,000 feet tall. So when you try to do something to me like that, I'm just not going to back down. I mean, I've times when people were surrounding me. 5 people once surrounded me, trying to tell me to put on a mask, trying to threaten me, and I'm laughing in their face. Like, that's just not going to happen. Try to do it. Anyway, the point is, do not bow down to tyranny. We are the good people. We are the reasonable people. We are the normal people. These
Yeah.
people are the extremists. Okay, they're the extremists who want to put a face diaper on their face. They want you to force you to stand 6 feet away, to inject you with stuff against your will. These are extremists. These are the freaks, and they're going to lose. Okay, so stand your ground, and be the monkey wrench. Be the monkey wrench in this new world order. All this stuff coming through, we're gonna defeat it. I can promise you, we're gonna defeat it, and I need you all to just accept that reality that we're going to defeat these demons because they are demonic. They literally are satanic. They do rituals and they do a lot of stuff, right? And even without that, right? What they're trying to do with this congestion pricing and this digital currencies and all the ways they're going to try to trap us. It's not going to work. Their system's going to crumble. Okay, so believe that, smile, and know that we're going to win this battle. Okay, just be proud of yourselves for standing up like the lions that you are. Uh, and let's stop their game. 2025, we're going to stop this congestion pricing. Let's do this, people. Let's get it going. That's number one. And number two, we're gonna stop anything they try to do. That's just what we're gonna do because I'm living life. We're all here for one time only, and we're gonna make the best of it. Let's go. 2025. Happy New Year.
Love it.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, John. Thank you, Rosangel. Thank you, everybody. Mark, everybody listening. I love you guys. Together, we're powerful. We're unstoppable. Love you.
Oh, I love you guys too. I have a couple of more announcements before we wrap out. Upon Cozy's encouragement, because we're all playing the be inventive in this new space. I opened up another merch shop. So the first T-shirt I designed is an homage to Papi, my father, and he had really broken English, but he loved people. He loved food, and he had a famous saying that he didn't say very well, but the name of the t-shirt is "Close your mouth, no come in flies." So so, his way of saying, if you keep talking trash, you will keep attracting the flies. So I put that in the chat. There's some other designs there too. It's just, a way that people can support Cafecito Break. And our other announcement is that my sister and I are excited. We will be, helping to support Kelly in New York with his magazine. So stay tuned for more updates, guys. And I really believe in us, and I believe in in what we've been through. And
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Let me interrupt here for a second because I don't know what I was thinking. If you guys subscribe to Freedom Talk Magazine, half of that goes to Cafecito Break. So every month, and it's $2.50 per subscription because the subscription is $5. But this is one small way we can support what you guys are doing.
thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity and the trust. I feel the way you do. My sister and I, we had a little small business. It was almost 10 years old. We really weren't there because we were making monies. We were there because we had our community, and that was the hardest part. So hearing you talk about your journey with your coffee shop and how it became a hub during such one of the most darkest times in collective history, in my collective history, uh and many of us, like, it's just refreshing to know that. And I can't wait to discover the many stories that exist out there, of people who fortified against all odds, and for like your unsung heroes. Like, we're all unsung heroes here in this space. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Please like, subscribe, follow. And if no one has any more comments, I'd like to wrap the space. All right. So thank you again, everyone. We're here every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for all the contributors. Uh, we just started a really, really big year. Let's make this very successful. And you all are in our prayers. We also need to keep prayers really activated. I really, really believe that, um, you know, energies that want to that there are energies that are going to try to knock us out from our goals, and we all have different goals, but many of them may seem similar. So just remember to stay prayed up and activated. I love you guys, and I'll see you next Monday.
God bless. God
Take
bless
care,
y'all.
everyone.
Thank you.